Townhall.com news editor Katie Pavlich says unions have a tough road ahead of them, but Demos President Miles Rapoport is urging unions not to stop. Why not stop?
Why not? I think because the essence of what we need in the economy is to build, rebuild, and preserve a stable middle class. After World War II, when strong unions, businesses who understood the value of a well-paid workforce, and government policies combined to really create the middle class in the United States that was the envy of the world.
No, I agree with that. But do you think now they're over pushing it, and now even targeting governors of either party who might be entertaining this, or candidates for office who might be thinking about this? Are they going to?
No, I think the people who are going too far are the governors. Governor Snyder in Michigan, Governor Walker in Wisconsin, Governor Scott in Florida, who are attempting to really undercut the middle class.
How are they doing that? By just letting people decide for themselves whether they want to be in a union or not?
Because when unions are stronger, they have the ability to negotiate on behalf of their members, all of their members, whether they're union members or, whether they're dues paying or not. But they have, and when that happens, wages go up, and wages for the whole economy go up. Right to work in the states where it is has not helped build new jobs. What it has done is depress wages by about $1,500 in every state where there's a right to work law. I don't think that's the prescription for the economy that we need.
Katie, what do you make of that?
Well, first off, I would say that states that have right-to-work laws have a lower unemployment rate than states that do not. And in terms of why people aren't joining unions when they have the choice, we have a perfect example here, because you have the recall in Wisconsin that went horribly wrong. The unions spent $20 million on that. They weren't successful. And now they're wanting to do it again in Michigan. They want to do it again in Wisconsin. And it really shows why people don't want to join unions, because their dues are going towards political causes that they might not agree with, rather than actually helping the workers that we call the middle class.
Now, if you could argue, Miles, and maybe you could help me with it, that if things were really going very well, they would gladly pay the dues and have no question about it. But if they're not going very well, they would, as they've entertained in Wisconsin, not pay the dues because they don't think they're getting their money's worth. But that's their choice, right?
Well, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of economic insecurity now, and people feel that they don't have enough income. So if they can not pay dues and still enjoy the benefits of having the union negotiate on their behalf, it's not a bad bargain.
But in a lot of these cases, right, I mean, they've gotten 3%, 4% pay raises if they're lucky, and a lot of them are figuring, well, it takes an expensive union with expensive dues to get me that. I might as well take my risk and not be in a union, right?
Well, the places where their union density is the lowest are the lowest wage, poorest performing parts of the country. Unions have been strong in the Midwest in the auto industry, which is rebounding and creating lots of new jobs. Those are strong union jobs. And I think in Michigan, it's really a mistake to say that the unions are ruining the state. In fact, they are the protectors of middle class wages and a middle class style of life for people that aren't upper income, college educated people. And I think it's essential that we preserve that middle class. And when you lessen unions' ability to work or to function politically, the result is lowering of wages. And you see those graphs of union density going down, wages going down. Those graphs are in lockstep. It has nothing to do with
foreign competition or anything like that.
Of course it does, but I think that's one major factor.
But Katie, I mean, he does raise a very good point, and it's a verifiable point that wages do go down. Now, more jobs come into the picture, but the jobs tend not to be as well paying. Is that just the flip side of right-to-work states, that's a sacrifice you make?
Well, it gives more people an opportunity to work and move their way up, whereas these states that have a higher unemployment rate that are basically union states. And, for example, Michigan has a horrible economy. Let's look at the city of Detroit. You can buy a house there for $1,000. The unions there have destroyed the economy through their, not only their bailouts, but also by asking for ridiculous benefits and not willing to even allow people to have the choice as to where they want to work. And like I said at the beginning,
you could argue too that a lot of those auto companies' management were not exactly Mensa candidates themselves, right? So they screwed up a lot. I'm not here to pick exclusively on unions. I will say, though, Katie, what worries me in this, and it's a point I will raise here with our union friend, is this notion that, when you're wounded, you can be very aggressive and you can go too far. Mm-hmm. And I'm worried that unions go too far or interpret an election that they did help bring President Obama over the finish line, that qualifies them now to just pull out all the stops.
I'd have.
Well, I just think that they're basically doing
Go ahead,
the
Katie, answer
opposite
that.
of what they're basically doing. Giving people an example of why they don't want to be in a union. They're using union dues to pay for political causes that not everyone agrees with. And the fact is, when people are given a choice whether they want to join a union or not, they choose not to join. This isn't about the governors of these states attacking the unions. This is about the union attacking itself and not giving people the choice to be in it or not.
Well, a lot of them were a little annoyed, right? Members, Miles, who said, this do stuff in the campaigns. I like, and then he said, I like President Obama. He's a great guy, but cool it, for God's sake.
No, I really disagree. I mean, I think if you look at what happened in the 2012 elections, we did have a very clear choice between, an economy that was tilted towards the rich and let the benefits trickle down, if you would, or under President Obama's leadership, to build from the middle class out. And President Obama won that election in all of those Midwestern
states.
I'm
giving your forces credit for delivering the vote. They got out the vote. They got the jazzed, engaged vote, and turned out to be far more passionate about it than Republicans. And that's to your credit. But there was a very big difference between getting out the vote and making some sense here. And I think that they feel, and maybe the president feels, beholden to unions and unions to him to look after each other and force something that the public did not vote for.
But I think the misreading is on the part of the governors, like Governor Snyder in Michigan now. He's doing it in a lame duck session, rushing it through.
It's not a collective bargaining thing like Wisconsin, where you might have had a point. This is just a free choice thing. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be a part of it.
No, well, by attacking the ability of unions to work on behalf of their members, that's what this is.
No, think of it this way.
What it does is
why should every public sector worker in a state be part of a union? Why?
Because I think what unions have done historically, and when they were strong, and are continuing to fight for now, is to give workers, whether the public or private sector, the ability to bargain, better wages,
let's say if
better
all
working
TV
conditions.
anchors had to be part of a union, if all camera crews had to be part of a union, then someone who's not part of a union, doesn't want part of a union, is forbidden from even getting to that work site. Is that fair?
No, you don't have to be part of a union, even in a unionized shop. In a non-right-to-work state, you don't have to join the union. What you can't do is take
almost impossible.
What you can't do is get the benefits of the union that is working on your behalf and then not pay. And I think that's a reasonable thing. And I think the attack.
So you would be open to that if the end result of Michigan, let's say you don't get this before voters, or if you do, it's shot down similarly as the governor shot it down. Those who take advantage of it cannot, take advantage of it.
Well, I really think that
people don't want those ones.
Where there are unions that are representing people, doing a good job of it, and most people are satisfied. I think people ought to pay their dues. They don't have to work in a unionized shop. They can go work elsewhere. But the fundamental macro.
Yeah, but if they like doing what they're doing, if they're an electrical worker, they have to be in a union, and they like electrical work, and they don't want to be in a union.
But the overarching public policy issue here, I think, is that a middle class needs workers with reasonable wages, benefits, etc.
I do think there was a time.
I think the time's still here. I think the time's still here.
All right, Katie, your thoughts.
Neil, if the benefits were so great, people would choose, when given the choice, to be in the union. And in terms of acting like this is some attack on the unions, it's not. You look at the Scott Walker example in Wisconsin, which we've seen play out now. Scott Walker has put in reforms that the state overall approves of. And then when they tried to recall him, guess what? He won by a bigger margin the second time around in the recall than he did during the first election. And so not only did Scott Walker save those jobs for the union workers, but he put into place these benefit packages that could be sustainable long term, and that's what
Katie,
these governors in Wisconsin and Michigan are doing.
Looking anti the working man by going after the union man?
I don't think so, because the working man isn't joining a union. Union membership is at an all-time low of 11.4%, and if people wanted to be in the union and wanted the benefits of the union, they would join.
Well, and it's been under tremendous attack under the current political environment, and these governors are doing just that. I think if the governors let it be and let people really choose whether to join a union or not, and not to undertake this assault on the unions, I think people would in fact join unions.
People would reassess and not join, right?
I think they would join.
Really? Okay. We'll respectfully disagree.
I think calling this an assault, I think calling choice an assault is a little bit of an exaggeration.
Well, you both argued your points very well. Thank you, guys. In the meantime, this one takes bills. Remember that $60 billion measure to help Sandy victims?